What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Nick with Leverage Media, and welcome to another episode of Path to a Million podcast. Just finished submitting my applications for both Springfield Wellness Center and Leverage Media, and I just wanted to give you kind of some insight into how I calculated my average monthly payroll, which then is what I multiplied by 2.5. and what documents I submitted to support that. So before I get into like the details of like what I did and what the documents were, you know, the idea here is that the banks themselves, as a lot of you are probably finding out today, that the bank and bigger banks really don't have like a lot of guidance from the SBA. So the banks themselves were waiting for the portal that the SBA like opened up for the banks to submit the information. So for my bank, for community banks, it just opened up maybe like 2 hours ago. Some of the bigger banks, I think what they're doing, I think like the Chases and the Bank of Americas and the PNCs and all those big banks that have, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are going to apply through them. I think that they are, they're just making sure that there is no liability there for them. And so that's what's probably causing a lot of this delay. And I bet you a lot of them don't do anything until Monday because they want to take the weekend for their lawyers to look at things and whatever. So, but the final rules were put out from the Treasury last night. And the Treasury just doesn't give a lot of details. I mean, it was a 31-page document. It took me, I don't know, maybe like 30 minutes just to kind of skim through and read the parts that I thought were really important. So for example, my bank is basically saying, listen, you calculate the average monthly payroll cost. Just make sure that, basically do it as if you're going to get audited by the SBA or the Treasury and be able to support whatever you put in there. And, you know, as long as it's not fraudulent, like kind of the worst case scenario for you is going to be that things don't get forgiven on the back end and you have to like turn things into a loan. So I said this last night, a lot of you are owner operators. So you get the majority of your income from your office, and a lot of you don't do that through payroll. They do it through draws or distributions or whatever. So what was I going to say? Should have just lost my thought. So anyway, you get, I know what I was going to say. So you get your money through the distribution. So most of you, I would imagine, or let's just assume that a lot of you make over $100,000 between your payroll and your distributions, draws, whatever. So basically you're going to qualify for $100,000. That means that over these 8 weeks, you're basically going to get about $16,000 personal money that the government is, like you as an employee are going to get a check from your business that is funded by the government that then gets passed along to you. For me, just because like I've heard lots of banks are saying, yes, the distributions count, yes, the draws count, blah, 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 blah. That's for making the loan, unless they're, and again, I am 98% certain that they will be forgiven the same way they'll be forgiven for any payroll costs, regardless of the employee. But what I'm doing with it is I'm going to take that $16,000 that I qualify for one business, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it off to the side. I'm not going to touch it. And then if the Treasury comes out with some rule that says, oh yeah, we forgot to say owners' distributions don't count, then I'm just going to have the money there and I'm just going to give it back to them. I'll probably qualify for like what I get on my W-2 for sure, like 100%. But that's $26,000. So the other $74,000 I'm just going to keep on the side, and I'm going to give it back to them if it does not get forgiven. So they'll make some decision on loan forgiveness, and they'll either say yes, that's forgiven, or no, that's not. If it's not, I just give it back to them. So that's the way I'm going to do it. Don't know what you guys want to do on that, but I just wanted to let you know how I was thinking. All right, so let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go through like how I calculated it. So at first I was making it too complicated. I was getting my 941s out and I finally figured out the easiest way for me to do it is this. So on my payroll system, I use Intuit Payroll, like the QuickBooks Payroll. And what I did is I pulled up, so for Springfield Wellness Center, I am going to use my 2019 numbers because my bank told me it was up to me whether I wanted to use my 2019 numbers or the previous 12. So for me, the 2019 numbers were just easier, and that office is pretty stable, so I don't really need, and I qualify for the full 100, so I don't really need to, like, I'll just keep it easy. So I used my 2019 numbers for Springfield Wellness Center, and what I did is I pulled up all my payroll for 2019 for all employees. So in Intuit, it basically just lists every single check, and it gives the gross amount, and then the employer taxes, like the stuff that I pay for FICA, and then the total. So like if somebody makes $3,000, the FICA tax is another like $250, $300, something like that. And so let's say it's $300. You pay the employee $3,000. You as the employer pay $300. The total cost is $3,300. Okay, so I'm using the column that is $3,300 for all of those checks. So for me, the total payroll, including employer taxes, meaning FICA, was $428,000 and some change. So $428,000. All right. Then the part that I paid myself as payroll, as part of that 428, was $28,000, so $26,000 plus about $2,000 in FICA tax. So $28,000 is included in the 428. So it just happens to be basically like all of my staff was 400, me was 420, or mine was 28. So total it was 428 for my W-2. That's what showed up on W-2s. All right. Because I got $28,000 in payroll, I'm only going to qualify for $72,000 in my draw. So I had more than that for the year, but I'm only going to put in the exact amount that gets me up to $100,000. So that was adding $71,898. So now I qualify, me, Nick, as an employee, qualifies for the 100K. All right. I have one employee that made over $100,000, so I subtracted the amount that was over $100,000 for him. Okay, so he was a W-2 employee. Between his payroll and the employer taxes, it was over $100,000, so I subtracted that out of the total. So I ended up with basically $490,000 in payroll. Okay. So two of us maxed out at 100. The rest are all under 100. So it's $490,000. All right. Then I included my federal unemployment for all of 2019. So that's your 940 form. So I paid $499.21. So I added that onto the $490,000. Then Illinois pays unemployment quarterly. So I pulled my Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 unemployed, it's called like employer wage report, I think. So you do one of those every quarter. So for Q1, it was $504. Q2 was $155. Q3 was $47. Q4 was $78. So I added those four totals up, or those four amounts up, including my 2019 federal unemployment and including that $490,000. That gave me $491,291.89. All right, so that's my payroll costs for all of 2019. So I took the payroll summary of all the paychecks I paid in 2019, including employer taxes. I took my draws up to 72,000-ish. I subtracted my employee that was over 100. I brought him down to 100. And then I added in my federal unemployment, which is a one-time annual payment, and then my 4 quarterly Illinois unemployment payments. They gave me $491,291.89 is my annual payroll cost. I divided that by 12. That gave me $40,940.99. That's my average monthly payroll cost. And I multiplied it by 2.5. That gave me a total of $102,352.48. That is the amount that I will qualify for the loan. As long as it's 102,352, so let's call it 100,000. That'll make it easy. I'm going to qualify for $100,000. I'm going to have to use 75% of that at least on payroll. 25%, so I can spend $25,000 on rent, utilities, interest on mortgage, interest on business loans, and health insurance premiums if I did it through my business, which I don't. So I probably won't even have enough for the 25. I probably don't have enough to spend $25,000 on in 8 weeks on the non-payroll costs. So I need to find out specifically on how the payroll cost side of it works. If I'm going to basically only be able to use a certain amount of it, if I'm going to have to like give some back. So that's going to be I may not even be able to use this full 100,000. I'm still not sure. So that's how I calculated it. So I'm gonna go through the zip file that I sent to my bank with the documentation to support all of that. All right, Silveri Chiropractic. All right, so I sent them quarterly federal 941 forms. I sent them, which are every quarter you report to the federal government. This is the payroll that I had, right, with the taxes that you owe and all that. That's my federal 941, Q1, 2, 3, and 4 of 2019. I even put in there, basically I think we put in there the first quarter of 2020, just because I wasn't sure if I was going to do the last 12 months or if I was going to do 2019. I decided on 2019. So the federal 941s, the Illinois 941s, which is it's basically the same information, just letting them know how much Illinois tax was withheld. I gave my federal unemployment report for 2019, which is a 940 form. I gave my Illinois employer wage report, which is the Illinois unemployment report for Q1, 2, 3, and 4 of 2019. I did that payroll summary for all of 2019. So in my Intuit payroll, there's a payroll summary, and it shows the column, and it adds up the column where it was all the payroll plus the employer taxes for each individual payment, and then, each individual paycheck, and then the total down at the bottom. I also did an addendum A, which if you have filled out the form, it asks if you have any ownership in other businesses. So I filled out a sheet that basically just said, here's the business that I am an owner in, here is my name, here is my social security number, here's the percentage that I own in that business. I would guess that they're going to want that to keep track, because there's nothing in the law that says you can't apply for there's nothing that says you can't apply for pay through multiple companies that you own if you're an employee of those companies. So I have a feeling that the addendum A is basically to keep track to see if to make sure that each social security number only gets like a max of 100, but I don't know that. So that's what I guess is like, why else would they be asking for what other businesses you own? But I would guess that's it. Then I also, my bank specifically asked for individual payroll summaries of each check. Like we do payroll every two weeks on a Friday. So each day that we had payroll, I did an individual document or PDF that shows like what paychecks were paid on that date, what the total was, and I think that's probably going to be showing like your head count maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that, but my bank asked that. They only asked for basically document the 941s and these payroll summaries. I just got all of this stuff together. So basically anything that I used in my calculation, I wanted to make sure that they had documentation for it. And then my last thing was on my QuickBooks, because my bank last night told me that if you want to claim draws or distributions, you just need to show us that you did that. So like, I don't have my 2019 taxes done yet, so I asked if I could just do a QuickBooks transaction list. They said yes. So I did. It's called a transaction list by transaction list by date, and then I just went through and I found in that transaction list that shows the owner's distributions. So that would show the checks that I wrote to myself to document why I added in the draws. So that is how. That's how I did my Springfield Wellness Center one. I basically did the exact same thing for Leverage Media. The only difference is that I used 4/119 to 3/31/20. So I just used the previous 12 months instead of doing just 2019. So for those, I just used different quarters for my documentation, just because it was my payroll was a little bit different these last 12 months than it was in 2019. So I think that was everything. Yeah, and I went through the documents. So that's how I calculated it. That's how I represented it. And yeah, I mean, again, my bank is maybe going to be different than your bank, but one thing I will say, I've been getting some emails and some messages about Bank of America that you have to not only have a checking account, but you have to have some type of line of credit or business loan with them. And people are kind of freaking out because all the banks that they're calling are saying, well, you have to have had a checking account with us already, because they're basically prioritizing customers. So what I've been recommending to those people is I would call community banks, like a local bank that is an SBA lender that's participating in this, and I would just explain the situation, like, hey, all my stuff, so my checking account is at Bank of America, they won't let me do it, and I'm pissed, and if you let me do it through your bank, I'll move all my accounts over here. And because community banks are always looking for businesses that they might be able to add in checking accounts and the ability to the ability to have income coming in. So and they get the 5% for whatever. So like for Bank of Springfield, they're gonna get 150. They're going to make $4,500 off of, sorry. They're going to make $7,500 off of running my application. So, maybe that's a good deal for a bank. I don't know. Phil, sorry for blowing you up as you try to go live. No problem. I will say, like, if you guys have like questions or anything, it would be best if you just like did them underneath like videos or whatnot, because I get a lot of like private messages, and there's nothing like private about the information that they're sharing. So I'd rather it be, I'm going to answer it either way. Like, I think I've answered like 99.9% of comments or messages that come into me. And even if you say thank you, I say you're welcome, So, so if you could just do it in the, where everybody can, because I've probably said some things in these direct messages on Facebook that would have been helpful for somebody else. So just try not to do direct message, just do it on the comments. And that way, if somebody else knows the answer, they can get to you quicker than maybe I can. Nancy Fallon, do you add your K2 or K distributions to your W-2? I assume that means like your K1 or like your owner's distribution. So like I said, for me personally, I take $26,000 in salary, so that's my W-2. And then I added in my employer taxes, which brought it up to 28. And then I used 72,000 of my owner's distributions to bring me up to the 100. I don't have my 2019 taxes done, so I didn't have a K1 form to use. But if you did, that would be something I would use in the documentation as well. I'm confused. You were unemployed in 2019. No, I wasn't. I'm kind of unemployed in that I don't really do that much, but I technically was employed by my businesses, but my team and my staff would argue that I'm that employed. Franca Bernal Alterman, were you able to submit it yet? Our bank has us on holds until the morning. Yes, I have a local bank, and so I think the local banks are moving forward a little bit quicker than the bigger banks, just because, you know, the local banks, they have the relationship. They know, like, I know my commercial banker personally. My girlfriend who banks at Chase, you know, she kind of knows the person that she's communicating with because they're in like some networking group together. But if she didn't have that, her accounts are at Chase, and it would just be like all the rest of you where you're just submitting this application and it's like, yeah, I'll get back to you. Flora, since the 25% of the PPP can go towards rent at all, when we're doing the calculation for the PPP, can we include rent, for example? No, you can't. So the calculation for what you qualify for is only payroll costs. That you'll figure out what your average monthly payroll is, multiply that by 2.5. That gives you, the 0.5 is the part that where you can pay rent, but you cannot use rent or any of the other stuff for calculation. Now you can use like retirement stuff, health insurance premiums if those are paid through the business. But you would need different, I don't do that, so you would need different documentation that shows that. But again, I'm doing the calculations, or I did the calculations for my average monthly payroll. They're basically wanting you to, number one, be truthful, because if you're lying and they catch you, like the government catches you, it could be fraud, like if you're like actually being fraudulent. You know, if it doesn't meet the standards and it's not fraudulent, it'll just get turned into a loan and it won't get forgiven. So no. Heath, what's up, man? I'm so jealous of Heath. He's got like beautiful, long, like cool hair, and man, my hair is gonna be beat here in a couple of weeks unless my girlfriend learns how to cut hair. So I'm hoping that she does. Ryan, what's going on? Angela Price Kloss, the 2019 payroll summary is only for active employees, correct? No, it's for everything. Everything you've paid in employees in 2019 is what you would use as your payroll. Jeff, can't thank you enough. You're welcome. So hopefully that helped. It took me a little while to figure out, you know, what was going to be the easiest, quickest way. I was making it too difficult in the beginning. But this is again why you don't need a like somebody to help you with it, because this stuff, the application is super simple. And once you have the calculations, how to do the calculation, it's really easy. It's really not that hard. As long as you like pay payroll normally, it's not that difficult. And even if you're by yourself, if you're a sole proprietor or whatever, you know, all you have to do is figure in yourself. So hopefully that helps. Sorry, I don't do health insurance or retirement, so I couldn't help with that. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Thanks.